As a kid, I loved sports. Football, cricket, tennis, you name it. The 100 meters was my event. I dreamed of being Olympic gold medalist. I was one of the fastest in my school, and that buzz I got leaving the field behind me just felt incredible. But aged 11, that dream was over. A PE teacher with a stopwatch said my 13-second sprint was 2 seconds too slow. He wasn't going to forward me to a specialist coach. Very small margins. I was heartbroken. But as I grew up, I carried on running, and I became a bit of a long-distance runner. I'd run 10 kilometers 3 times a week for fun. I wasn't quite at the Mo Haque speeds, but 10 kilometers in 40 minutes and 5 kilometers in 19 minutes. I was pretty happy after each run. I mean, running would allow me to forget the troubles of the world, to forget the day-to-day stresses of my life. Running was my escape. But then, in the summer of 2014, something wasn't quite right. My 5K runs were 4 minutes slower, and my 10K runs, they were taking me 10 minutes longer. Didn't make sense, and I didn't know why. 6 months later, December 2014, I was about to get some answers. Sitting in the consultant's room, Mr. McCulloch, gently nodding his head, he quietly said, "Yes, it's cancer." It was the cliche, "my life changes forever" moment. I silently affirmed to stay strong. Strong for the doctor who just told me the news. Strong for the nurse who was sitting opposite. Strong for my sister who was with me. Strong for my mum who was anxiously waiting at home for an update. Strong even though all I wanted to do was break down, crumble, and wash away into the ocean. I maintained my focus, I took notes, I asked questions, and I thought, I can do this, not yet knowing what was in store. All of a sudden, my previous 10 years of personal development began to make sense. All those self-help books, the hours and hours of audio, and the courses I traveled the world for, they were somehow preparing me for the biggest challenge of my life. As I left the hospital that day, I could no longer hold back the tears. Without saying a word, we aimlessly walked up the high street. I mean, what are you meant to say or do when you've just been told you have cancer? The word is loaded with fear, with sadness, with uncertainty. I had 2 main questions. 1, what did this mean? Socrates once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." With death staring me in the face, I wanted my life worth living, however long was left. And my second question was whether I chose to stay. I knew I had a major part to play in the process. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to play. Over the next week, I wasn't sure how to tell someone I had cancer. I'd cautiously begin with I have some tough news, or I have some shocking news. But the news was to get even worse a week later when I met my oncologist, Professor B. I didn't know what an oncologist was. Google helped me out. Someone who's dedicated their life to understanding and treating this deadly disease. They surely know what they're talking about. And so when Professor B told me my cancer was stage 4, the very last stage, and I had a small chance of success, I was devastated. I questioned the very point of beginning chemotherapy in a week's time. My GP said, "You mustn't lose hope." Feeling defeated, I went to see my friend, Dr. Kim Jobst, an integrative physician, someone who treats a patient not only on a physical level, but the mental, emotional, and spiritual sides. You are more powerful than the words of any doctor. Whether you choose to stay or go, I'm with you every step of the way. Those words from Dr. Kim brought me back to center. The challenge ahead was real, it was serious. But in that moment, I affirmed to do whatever I could to choose to stay. I chose to be an active participant of my healthcare, not let fate take over. I chose to take each day as it came. As I'd go to bed each night, A, I'd not know if I'd fall asleep, and B, if I did, whether I'd wake up. And so, upon awakening, I'd choose to say thank you. I choose to appreciate all the little things, from opening the curtains, to stepping out of the home, to feeling the drops of rain on the palms of my hand, to breathing in the air that filled my lungs. I chose to be grateful for all the things I'd previously taken for granted. But there were a lot of bad days and nights ahead. In total, I had 18 cycles of chemotherapy. I had a major operation to remove my colon. I had a blood clot in my lungs, and I needed injections every day for 18 months. And when the registrar said she was going to book me in for a blood transfusion, I almost freaked out. And the side effects, they were brutal. The fatigue, the sickness, diarrhea, the weight loss, the loss of taste, not to forget the pain. In the darkest hour of one particular night, I woke up with severe abdominal pain. I paced around my room. There was no comfort. I sat in the toilet. There was no comfort. And then, in desperation, bedside, I was down on my knees with my face drowning in the duvet, with me pleading with the pain. What do you want? What do you want me to do? And it was in that moment I felt relief. I felt comfort. I felt a deep connection to life, and I was enveloped with love. I chose to find ways to get through every single day. I explored my fears. I revisited my childhood wounds. I released my emotions, and I dared to speak my truth. I chose to make my private public. It was my opportunity to be as authentic as I could ever be. I began blogging and sharing my life, the good days and the bad. And 1 year later, in December 2015, Professor B had some more bad news for me. The chemo's not working, the cancer's growing, and there's nothing else we can do. The NHS had run out of treatment options for me, and by their definitions, my cancer was terminal. Now, I like to ask a lot of questions, and I wasn't about to stop. I asked the oncology team about a new immunotherapy drug that's shown some incredible results for my type of cancer. And they agreed I was a really good candidate for it, and put in a special request to the NHS for me to get access. But they said it might take a few months to hear back. So in the meantime, they referred me to a research institute with a view to finding a clinical trial for me. But those clinical trials were looking for new patients who've not had any previous treatment, so I was excluded. A few months later, April 2016, the NHS came back with a no. They weren't going to fund it. There was no funding route available. We asked the drug companies whether they would provide the drug on compassionate use. But they said, no, it's available on the market, you just need to pay for it. Only I needed to be a millionaire to access this drug. My life changes once more. My friend Rue suggested fundraising. He said, let's do something. But I wasn't quite ready for that. Am I worthy? Do I deserve to live? And what is the price on life? Some of the soul-searching questions I had to answer. And when I put aside my pride and ego and chose to stay, I said yes to life. Together with my friends and family, #Team Mo, we launched the daunting £200,000 campaign, Keeping Hope for Mo. And the results have been incredible. My Just Giving page was shared thousands of times through social media. I was invited to run collections at mosques, at community events. I got invited on TV channels, Bengali channels on the Sky Network for live appeals. And so many Team Mo supporters across the world ran fundraising activities for me. And in parallel to the fundraising, we tried a political route. My MP, Keir Starmer, he represented me to the Department of Health. And when they said they couldn't help, Keir held a reception for me at the Houses of Parliament to gain further awareness. My story has since been covered by various media outlets, including ITV London, Talk Radio, and The Independent. And the stories I continue to hear are so humbling. One morning, I woke up to a Facebook message. Hi Mo, my name's Alex. You don't know me. I'm a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. It turns out he was 5 steps removed. Alex and his girlfriend Stephanie decided to do something. They decided to do a cycle ride from the very south of New Zealand to the very north over a 50-day period and raised almost £5,000 for my campaign. People I had no idea existed, now my friends. And then closer to home, my local pharmacy, they ran a collection for me. One day, a homeless woman went in to buy some painkillers. She read my story on the counter, reached into her pockets, and left a few coins on the shelf. I want to be part of the campaign, she said. My pharmacist moved those coins back and said, you keep your coins, I'll put that in for you. But the woman, she said, no, I want to be part of the campaign. It has to be my coins. And there I was, hearing this story, humbled to the core. I have no idea who she is. I don't even know her name. But the stories continue. There's Thomas, my friend's son. At school one day, he requested a prayer. He said, my friend Mo is ill. Can we say a prayer for him? And they prayed. And afterwards, some of the other children came up to him and said, we didn't know Mo Farah was ill. We didn't know Mo Farah was ill, but we prayed for him. We hope he gets better. And those stories I would just cherish for the rest of my life. To date, we've raised £186,000. I've had a year of treatment and my tumours have reduced in size. Currently, the treatment's on hold and my latest scan, a week or so ago, has shown the condition to be stable. My doctor's happy and I'm very grateful. I'm still taking each day as it comes and I'm navigating from scan to scan. The truth is, I don't know how my story will end. But what I do know is that whatever situation I find myself in, I have a choice in how I respond, a choice with the questions I ask, a choice with the approach I take. And even if I'm shit scared, I have a choice to honor my feelings. Now, I may not have become Olympic gold medalist, as I once dreamed, but I know that running away from my day-to-day stresses is no longer the answer. You can't escape pain. It will one day catch up and slow you down. Choosing to stay is far from running. It's about exploring places inside I never thought possible, even in the darkest hours of the night. And there may come a day when I no longer choose to stay, but that will be okay too, because I know I've lived a life worth living.